Cord. Okay, we are holding the Mishnah on Daf Nun Gimel Amid Beis by the wide lines. So the Mishnah says, "Mokoim shnahagu lahadlik es haner belel Yom Kippur madlikin." There was we're talking about, and these Mishnayos are talking about not halacha, but if your place has a certain minhag, you are obligated to keep the minhag. Now, the halacha is, of course, and that's Minat Torah, that you're not allowed to have relations with your wife on Yom Kippur. So there were places that they made a minhag that they should put a candle in the bedroom on Yom Kippur to remind you not to have relations with your wife, because the halacha says that you shouldn't have relations in front of a ner, and therefore they on purpose put a ner in the bedroom on Yom Kippur. So you have to follow that minhag and light. Mokum, if you're in a place shenahago shaloi lahadlik, there was a minhag dafka not to make any to make it. The minhag is not to put a light in your bedroom, so that you will not see your wife and not be attracted to her. That was that minhag. So ein madlikin, you're not allowed to light. So there were two places. Some places had a minhag to light in the bedroom a candle on Yom Kippur, and some places had a minhag dafka not to light in the a candle or haner on Yom Kippur. But nevertheless, wherever you are, umadlikim, the halacha is because you should light candles, lights, bebate knesiyos, bebate midrashes, in shuls and beis medrashes, because of the kedusha of the shul. And Yom Kippur is a day of light. It's not like Yom Kippur that you dim the lights. You're supposed to have lights there. In dark alleyways on Yom Kippur, you should make sure there's light there so it's not dangerous. On top of sick people, because again, it's a sakana to leave a sick person without a light. So the minhag is to light everywhere else besides the cheder hamita. So the Gemara. Tana, we learned in a brayso. Bein she'amru lahadlik, bein she'amru shlei hadlik. Those places that said to light in the bedroom, and those places that said not to light, their hearts were in the good places. Shneim l'dava echad eskavnu. They both were. Their intention was for one idea: is that a person should not come to do relations with his wife on Yom Kippur. Rabbi Yeshua darash Rava. Rava gave a speech and said, "Va'amech kulat tzadikim." The nations are all the people, all Jewish people are like tzaddikim. Lo'ilam yirshu aretz. So that means every nation, in other words, the Jewish people are like different groups. Some follow this minhag, some follow that minhag, but we're all doing righteous things to get to one point. So that's what he said. No matter what place you're in, they said to light or not to light. The only intention was not that to prevent you from doing relations on Yom Kippur. New Gemara. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Ein mevarchin al hu'ur el b'matzah Shabbos. You don't make havdalah over a candle, only on Matzah Shabbos. Why? Hoil uschilas briyasehu. Because that was the time that that God created, or Adam created fire, so to speak, as we'll learn later on. Therefore, to remember that, we make it only a blight on Matzah Shabbos. We make a bayrim eish, but not on Matzah Yom Kippur. I want to point out to you. So why this question that Tosfos points out right away? If the halacha of why we make a bracha on Matzah Shabbos is because we're benefiting from fire, so Hiksha Rabbi Yosef, why don't we make a bracha bayrim eish every day that you have benefit from the fire? You should make a bracha constantly bayrim eish. The asa lehenis min oilam azeh b'lei bracha. You're not allowed to benefit from this world without a bracha. So just like you can't drink a glass of water without making a bracha, so why don't we constantly make the bracha bayrim eish? The teretz, and this is a yesod. The teretz is, when do you make a bracha? Is like say on food. When your body is benefiting from something, that's when you make a bracha. But just benefiting from something, loy. So therefore you don't make a bracha on oxygen or something like that. Only if you could feel it in your body, physically. Now, therefore, the bayrim eish that we're making on a Matzah Shabbos happens to be because it's a brichas shevach. It's a praise that there is a creation of light in the world. So therefore, we make it on Matzah Shabbos once a week. It's not a birchas nehenin that you're enjoying something. It's a birchas shevach. Then Taisus ends off, even though you make a bracha on the sun every day, right? You make a bracha in the davening. Yotza Oru V'Rechoshech. How come you make a bracha every day on light? You just told me that if you're not benefiting from it, so you do it once in a while, but not every day. The answer is because you have to look at every day. Mishum shemischadesh b'kol yom. The sun, the world renews itself every single day. It's like a brand new thing. It's like a brand new creation every day. That's why we make a bracha yotza or in the morning. So basically, Rabbi Yehuda Mishmuel's opinion is that a Matzah Yom Kippur, you don't make a Bar Maru Eish. Amalehu Saba, V'yitem Rabba Babachana, Yishar. You did that correctly. V'chein Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan also said that you don't make a Bar Maru Eish on Matzah Yom Kippur. So said Rabba Babachana in what seemingly said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. So now the Gemara tells a story where in the process of the story, Rabbi Babachana is going to re-explain himself that he's being misquoted of what he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. The Gemara says the story. Ula was riding on a donkey and going. And traveling along with him was like a great rabbi needs two people with him. Rab Abba mimine. Rab Abba was on his right side. Rab Abba Babachana mismolei. Rab Abba Babachana was on his left side. Amalei Rab Abba leula. So Rab Abba said to Ula, did you really say in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Did you re-quote, you Ula, do you also agree that Rabbi Yochanan said that you don't make a Bar Eish only on Matzah Shabbos and not on Matzah Yom Kippur? Because Matzah Shabbos is special because it was the time that light was created. So the Ula didn't answer it. He turned to Rabbi Babachana, who was standing on his left side, and he turned to him in like a funny-looking, disappointed face. In other words, Rabbi Babachana, he felt, was misquoting Rabbi Yochanan in saying that you don't make a bracha Bar Eish on Matzah Yom Kippur. So Rabbi Babachana said, re-explained himself. He said, not that I said that in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. I agree that you make a Bar Eish on Matzah Yom Kippur. So what did I say about Rabbi Yochanan? When don't you light? I wasn't talking about Matzah Yom Kippur. On this following statement, the Tana Kamed Rabbi Yochanan, Tana taught in front of Rabbi Yochanan that Rab Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Rab Shimon ben Elazar said, there was a Tana in front of Rabbi Yochanan re-quoting a brisa in the name of Rab Shimon ben Elazar, the Yom HaKippurim Shcholiyos b'Shabbos, Yom Kippur that falls out on Shabbos. So now you can't cook, right? Af b'mokom she'omru sh'lo lahadlik, even if they told you not to light in the bedroom, right? Because it's Yom Kippur. If Yom Kippur fell out on Shabbos, madlikim, you do light. Why? Make void haShabbos, because Shabbos has to have a light. You can't have a house or a bedroom without a light in it on Shabbos, because you trip over things. It's because of Shalom Bayis. You need it there. That's what Rab Shimon ben Elazar commented. On Rabbi Yochanan Basrei, Rabbi Yochanan said, "V'chachamim oisrim." The Chachamim say, "So v'chachamim oisrim." The Chachamim don't allow you to have a light in your bedroom on Friday night when Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos. So that's where I said that Rabbi Yochanan said not to light on Yom Kippur. It was talking about a totally different case. On Friday night of Yom Kippur that fell out on Shabbos, Rabbi Yochanan say that you shouldn't, if your minhag is not to have a light in the bedroom, don't put a light in the bedroom. But I never meant, I was misquoted. Everybody said, oh, Rabbi Yochanan said not to light on Matzah Yom Kippur and say Bar Eish. That was, I never said that. That's what Rabbi Babachana told Ula. Amalei, so Ula said, Adah Tehei. That's correct. That's what's correct. So, Rabbi Yosef, when he heard this story about Ula, Rabbi Babachana, that means Ula made a face, and Rabbi Babachana understood from Ula's face that he's angry at him, and he brought out and corrected himself. This is Rabbi Yosef used the pasuk, and it's a nice pasuk to know. Mayim amukim eitza belev ish. Sometimes in the heart of a person, he has a deep, deep thoughts, very deep waters and deep ideas. He's thinking deeply, but he's not expressing himself. Next page, the ish tvuna, but somebody who's intelligent, like a social worker, Yidlena will draw it out of a person. That's a very, it's a pasuk for social workers, that sometimes people have deep, deep thoughts, and you need somebody to bring it out. So the Gemara says that's what you see in the story. Mayim abuke eitzabelev ish za'ula. Ula had a deep thought, and he expressed it by, putting a frown on his face. Ish tevuna yidlena, but an intelligent person, an understanding person, will draw it out and figure out what's bothering that person. Zeh Rabba Babachana. That's Rabba Babachana, who understood what Ula was upset about, and he recorrected himself to Ula. So now the Gemara says, the inhu commands varuhu. Ula and Rabba, right? They both hold that you do make a matzah Yom Kippur, a barim areish. Who do they hold like? Where's the source of them? Kihod the Amar Rabbi Yom Beyefes Amar Rabbi Yochanan bevorchim al huur. You make a bracha over light. Bein b'matzah Shabbos, not only matzah Shabbos, bein b'matzah Yom Kippurim, even matzah Yom Kippur. We also make a barim areish. And that's the custom of people, that they also make a barim areish, a matzah Yom Kippur. Meisaveh, the Gemara asks a question: Ein bevorchim al huur ela b'matzah Shabbos. Hoyel utchila asay briyasahi. This price seems to say that you'd only make a barim areish only on matzah Shabbos, because that was when light was created. The cave in Shiraya, as soon as you leave, let's say shul on matzah Shabbos, and you see fire, mavarach miyad, you make a bracha barim areish. Rabbi Yehuda, I mean no. Rabbi Yehuda says you wait till you get home and you put it together with the havdalah that you say over the cup. Soidrin al hakos. You put it over the cup of wine. And Rabbi Yochanan said, "Halachic Rabbi Yehuda." The halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. So the Gemara says that the Rabbi Yehuda doesn't argue against the Tanakama only when you say barim areish over the cup or right when you leave shul. But both Rabbi Yehuda and the Tanakama both say that barim areish was only said on Matzah Shabbos, not on Matzah Yom Kippur. So how do you resolve that brisa? So the Gemara says, Loi kasha. It's not a question. Kan bu'ur sheshavas, kan bu'ur hayotzim eitzim and avonim. On Matzah Shabbos, we know we take a match and we make a brand new fire from. And in the time of the Talmud, you made a fire from wood, rubbing wood or stones together. That type of eish you would make on Matzah Shabbos, but that would not be a good eish to make on Matzah Yom Kippur. On Matzah Yom Kippur, you need an eish that rested on Shabbos. That means that was lit the whole Shabbos, but it didn't do any work. For example, you had it lit for a sick person, or a yahrzeit candle or yahrzeit light. So then you make a bracha also on Matzah Yom Kippur, because that bracha is a brand new thing that you did not have any anor from the light today. So that's a bracha of a nehenin. See, Matzah Shabbos could be the bracha is birchas hasheva. On Matzah Yom Kippur, the bracha is that I had fire. I could not use the fire. Now, Matzah Yom Kippur, I'm allowed to use the fire for my personal reasons, for my personal needs. So therefore, Matzah Yom Kippur, you dafka need a fire that rested throughout the whole Shabbos. And that's why that brisa was not talking about a fire that was on. It's talking about making a light from a brand new fire. And the Gemara clarifies it and says it clearly. The light that comes out, a brand new light that comes out of wood and from stones, you make a bracha on it. We learned in another brisa, you don't make a bracha on it. So what's it talking about? Do you make a bracha? Don't you make a bracha? That depends. Like kasha, kam, but Matzah Shabbos. On Matzah Shabbos, you would make a bracha, light coming out of wood, because that's Matzah Shabbos. You're making the bracha for the fact that God created light. Kan b'Matzah Yom Kippurim. On Matzah Yom Kippurim, that wouldn't be in good enough light. You wouldn't make a bracha on that kind of light. You have to have a light that rested. Rebbe Mefazra. The Gemara says that Rebbe, when he would come home on Matzah Shabbos, he would separate the brachas. In other words, when he left shul and he saw a light, he would make a barim areish. And where if he smelled something, he would make a barim areish. Rab Chia mechanson. Rab Chia would not make these brachas when he left shul on Motzei Shabbos. He actually brought it all together to say it over the cup of wine, like we do it. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdini. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdini said, "Afal pisha Rebbe mefazram." Rebbe, even though Rebbe would separate it, and Rabbeinu HaKadosh, would right away make a bar mitzvah in shul when he left shul. He repeated it over the cup of wine to be might see his kids and his household. So that's why he repeated the Havdalah with the bar mitzvah to be might see his family members. It's interesting that I'm not sure what the halacha is. If someone made Havdalah, can he remake the Havdalah for the family? You see from this Gemara that not the Havdalah itself, but even the Bayr Maresh, Bayr Musamim that Rebbe made previously, he repeated it on the cup to be Mitzi's family. Now the Gemara says, so your basic premise is that fire was created on Motzei Shabbos, and that's why we make a bracha. So the Gemara begins, V'ur b'Motzei Shabbos Ivri, was fire really created on Motzei Shabbos? Well, Tanya, we learned in a brisa, Asara nivru be'erev Shabbos bein hashmoshes. There are 10 things that were created on erev Shabbos bein hashmoshes during twilight. Twilight is a very, very holy time, and every day. And erev Shabbos twilight is especially holy. And God created special nisim during that time, that nisim that were created, but only manifested itself when it's time when God wanted to bring forth that nes. Elohim, the following nisim: Be'er, the well of Miriam. The well of Miriam was created on Erev Shabbos during twilight. We saw it as a nes. It was niskala as a nes during the time of Miriam. The Haman, the Mon was created on Erev Shabbos. Vokeshes and the rainbow was created on Erev Shabbos. Ksav is the writing on the luchais. Umichtov, and that's the stylus, the pen that God used, so to speak, to write the letters. The haluchais and the luchais itself were all created on Erev Shabbos. The kivroi shel Moshe, and the burial place of Moshe was created on Erev Shabbos, and that's a place where the Chumash says that nobody knows where that is. And if there's good reason for that. If everybody knew where Moshe Rabbeinu was buried, then they would make his gravesite a shrine. So that was created in Erev Shabbos, an unknown place on planet Earth, somewhere, where Moshe Rabbeinu is buried. Uma'ara sha'amad by Moshe ve'Elio. Moshe Rabbeinu stood in a cave where God revealed himself. And it's a pasuk in Chumash, in Parshas Kisisa, where God said, close your eyes and you're going to see my back and you won't see my front. And God passed right in front of that cave. And that's near Har Sinai. Ve'Elio also was at that cave. Then the pasuk says, "Psichas pi ha'asain," the opening of the mouth of the donkey of Bilham, "Psichas pi ha'aretz levlayas rishayim," and the opening of the mouth of the earth to swallow up the rishayim. Rishayim, the korach, where the potential to open up the ground was created on Erev Shabbos. And here's the question. Rab Nechemya said to name his father, fire was created in Erev Shabbos. Pered and the mule. So right away we see the question. You tell me fire was created on Motzei Shabbos. We see these things are created during twilight and Erev Shabbos. Rabbi Yeshua, the Gemara of Brisa finishes, Rabbi Yeshua Mishum Aviv Afal Ayel, the ram of Avram Avinu, V'Hashamir, and that little worm that was able to cut through rock that Shlomo HaMelech used to build the Beis HaMikdash was also created in Erev Shabbos. Rabbi Yehuda says, Hatzvas, the first pliers was created. Because, Hu Haya Omer, Tzavta b'Tzavta. In order to make a plier, you need a plier because you have to take it and put it through the fire, hold it with a plier, and then pull it out and shape it. So that's, to make a plier, you need a plier. So V'Tzavta Kamai Siman Avid, who made the first plier? Hala'aya must be true. Somehow heaven made the first plier and gave it to, let's say, Adam Arishan, and from that he created other tools. So the Chachamim disagreed with Rabbi Yehuda. There's a possibility to make a plier without using another plier. After you send it to make a form and you could pour the melted metal into that form, and you can make a plier that way. You don't have to need another plier. Hala'aya, it must be true, Bria Brede Adami. It's created by man. But here ends the question, because we see in this brisa that Reb Nechemiah said, in the name of his father, that Af Hu'ur, even fire was created on Erev Shabbos. So how do you say fire was created on Matzah Shabbos? So the Gemara says, like Kasha, it's not a difficulty. Har Bu'ur Didam, our fire, the fire that we use on earth, was created on Matzah Shabbos. Ha, that brisa was referring to Bu'ur de Gehenna. Ur Didan b'Matzah Shabbos. Our fire was created on Matzah Shabbos. Ur de Gehenna be'Erev Shabbos. The fire of Gehenna was created on Erev Shabbos. So Gemara challenges that. Ur de Gehenna be'Erev Shabbos. Ivri, was the fire of Gehenna created on Erev Shabbos? What Tanya we learned to the Brisa. Shiver Dvaram Nivru Kodim Shnivra Olam. 7 things were created before the world was created. Okay, the Eluhem, and these are the following things: Torah, Tshuva, V'Gan Eden, V'Gehenna, V'Kisei HaKol Beis HaMikdash. These 7 things were created prior to planet Earth being created. So how could you even say that the fire of Gehenna was created on Friday of the creation? Then from this brisa it says that Gehenna was created even before the world was created. Now the Gemara brings Ushmai Shel Mashiach. Now the brisa just brings psukim to prove its point. Torah, how do you know Torah was created before planet Earth was formed? The Ksiv, Hashem Kananini, Reishis Darki. Hashem created it before he made Bereshis, so to speak. Before the start of Bereshis. Tshuva, the Ksiv, the Pasuk says, B'terem Haram Yuladu, before mountains came in existence, God created Ksiv, Toshav Eneshadakov, Atam Shuva B'nei Adam. The concept of Tshuva existed prior to mountains coming into existence. How do you know Gan Eden was created before God created the world? The Ksiv, it says in the Pasuk, V'yita Hashem Elokim Gan Eden Mikedem. This earlier Gan existed prior to the creation of the world. Gehenim, the Ksiv, it says in the Pasuk, Ki Oruch Me'esmo Tafte. God prepared from yesterday, meaning prior to creation, Tafte. Tafte is another name that of Gehenim, because Tafta means the one that is seduced. And anybody who was seduced by his Yetzer Hara would fall into this place called Tafta. So the Gemara says, Kisei HaKavod of Beis HaMikdash. How do you know the Kisei HaKavod in the Beis HaMikdash was created before creation? It says in the Pasuk, Kisei HaKavod Moraim Merishon Mokaim Mikdashenu. So that's Moraim Merishon Mokaim Mikdashenu. Shmai Shel Mashiach, Ksiv, before the sun was created, God had the name of Mashiach prepared. His name is Yinon. So this ends the kasha. The kasha is, you just told me that the Ur of Gehenna was created, the fire of Gehenna was created when? It was Friday. That's how you resolve another difficulty between another brisa. Wait a second, Gehenna was created before the world was created. So the Gemara says, Amri, the Shiva boys answered it. The hall where Gehenna was created prior to the world was created. It was an empty hall. Day, but the fire was created Erev Shabbos. So now, again, the Gehenna was created before the world was created. The fire of Gehenna was created on Friday. And our fire that we use on planet Earth was created on Matzah Shabbos. So the Gemara continues to challenge that. And it was the fire of Gehenna created on Friday. I'll prove it to you. It was created on Monday. Tanya, we learned to the Brisa. The light that God created on the second day, on Monday, you can never extinguish it. It says in the Pasuk, this talks about the people being punished during the Armageddon, that they're going to have this radiation fire that can never be extinguished. That their worms are not going to die from eating their corpses, and the fire will not be extinguished. So that's talking about the Armageddon. Why didn't God write when He created the world Kitov on Monday? On Tuesday it says Kitov. On Sunday it says Kitov. On Friday it says Kitov. Why doesn't it say Kitov on Monday? Because the light of Gehenna was created on Monday. Rabbi Lazar says, Alpha Pishan Namba by Kitayv, even though it doesn't say on Monday Kitayv, Chaza Klala Bashishi. Shenama, it says on Friday a Kitayv to make up for the Kitayv that missed out on Monday. Shenama, Vayar Kim is Kalasha also Vine Tayv Ma'oy. So here ends the question. First of all, you told me that the Ur of Gehenna was created on Friday. Here we see a clear brisa that says the fire of Gehenna was created on Monday. If the fire was created on Monday, then what fire was created on Friday, and what fire was created on Motzei Shabbos? So the Gemara answers, Ella chalola koidim shnir. By Gehenna, the room of Gehenna was created before the world was created. And the fire of Gehenna was created on a Monday. But our light, God thought about creating it on Friday, but didn't actually create it. But it wasn't created at Motzei Shabbos until Motzei Shabbos. Who created fire? The Tanya, Rabbi Yossi Aimer, Shnei Devarim Ola B'Machshav Li Barais Be'er Shabbos, V'lo Nivra Ad Motzei Shabbos. Two things God thought about creating on Friday, but didn't actually bring it to existence until Motzei Shabbos. Over Motzei Shabbos, Nasan HaKadosh Baruch Hu Deya B'Adam Rishon, God put some thought into Adam Rishon's head. Ume'ein Dugma Shalmala, he was godly like. Or he brought two stones together and grinded them and created a light. That was one thing Adam Rishon did on Saturday night. The other thing he did was he brought two animals and mated them one next to another. Yatzaman Perin created this mule, a cross between, I think a mule is a cross between a horse and a donkey. So that's the Perin. Rab Shimon ben Gamliel argues. He says that Adam Rishon did not create the mule. Pered b'mei Ana hoya. Pered was created in the days of Ana, which is one of the Bnei Esav. Shenema hu Ana shemotzas hayemim b'midbar, and the pasuk says that he created the yemim. The yemim is the pasuk there says that he created the mule. The people who try to figure out difficult psukim would say that Anna had a very interesting family. In other words, Anna Pasalhoya, he was born from an illegitimate marriage. He brought Psul, this mule, into the world. How do you know Anna was born? Shnema, it says in the pasuk, it says that Seir had boys Anna, and he had a boy Tzivon. And then there's another pasuk says, that Tzivon had Anna. So was Anna the brother of Tzivon, or was he the son of Tzivon? The answer is he was both. Tzivon was his brother, but Tzivon had an illegitimate relation with his mother, and they gave birth to Anna. So that Anna was actually Tzivon's brother, and Tzivon was his father as well. And they had Anna. So therefore, he was born from an illegitimate marriage, and that's how he brought Psul in the world, which is a lesson, by the way, in life. Whenever you see great Rishoyim in the world, they all come from illegitimate marriages. And no, you don't have to look further than Hitler Yamach Shemai. If you know anything about where he's coming from and where his family, it came from a very illegitimate, out of wedlock marriage. His father was married to somebody else, so he comes from an illegitimate psul. And any person that has a certain rishis and achsarius to them comes from an illegitimate marriage. So the Gemara just challenges that. Maybe there were two Annas. How do you know that Anna comes from an illegitimate marriage? I will tell you something that even a Shvar Malka, a great king, would not have said such a thing. He didn't tell you this chiddush. And who is this Shvar Malka? Shmuel. Shmuel is considered a Shvar Malka, like the king, because usually the halacha is like Shmuel, especially when it comes to dinim mamanis. So like a king, but even Shmuel didn't tell you this chiddush. I'm going to tell you something, the Chiddush, that even the great king Rava didn't tell you this. And what's the great Chiddush to prove that Anna is the same Anna in these two psukim? If you look at the psukim, he's the son of Seir and the brother of Tzivon, and he's the son of Tzivon. How could he possibly be both? Because it says, Omakro, hu Anna. That means hu Anna to be correct. The pasuk uses the word hu Anna. This is the Anna in the previous pasuk. The previous pasuk where it quotes as Anna being a brother of Tzivon is the same Anna where the pasuk re-says his name and says him as the son of Tzivon. So that's how you know that Anna comes from a very illegitimate marriage. Tan Rabbanim, we learned, the rabbis taught, Asar of Dvarim Nivra Ber Shabbos, Ben Hashmoshes, 10 things were created during twilight. This is just re-quoting the Brisa. Be'er, Mon, V'kesha, Aksava, Michtva, Luchos, Kivrei Shel Moshe, Mora, Sha'amad, Ba Moshe, V'Eliyahu, Psichas Pia Asam, Psichas Pia Ars, Levloya, Esher, Shoyin, V'yesh Omrin. Others say, part of the 10 things that were created in Erev Shabbos was Af Makle Shel Aharon, Shekedeah Ufrachel. This special stick of Aaron, which we read about in Parshas Korach, which blossomed almonds and its flowers during the machlekes, after the machlekes of Korach, after Korach was swallowed up, that nace, that this stick just flowered like that, was created on Erev Shabbos, that nace. The others say, Af Hamazikim, the shadim that we find in the world were created in Erev Shabbos. So to speak, these are spirits, evil spirits, so to speak, that float around the world, that they don't have a body. Because, so to speak, God didn't have enough time. He created the Ruach, but didn't create the body for them. So that's the Mazikim that were created on Friday. Yeshamim and others say, we go to the Dalet and the base, Big Day Shal Adam Arishan. The clothing of Adam Arishan had this special clothing that attracted all animals to him. He was able to attract any animal in the world because it had a picture of every animal. And from that special clothing, he was able to name the animals and to conquer any animal he wanted on planet Earth. That was given to him as a gift from God. And Nimrod got a hold of that, and Esav got a hold of that clothing. That special beged was created on Erev Shabbos. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, a very nice piece of Gemara to remember. There are 7 things that nobody will ever know. Eluhei, nobody knows Yom HaMisa, the day that you're going to die. Nobody knows that. That's covered from the person. The Yom HaNachama, and the day that every person who has a problem, when that problem is going to go away, that is hidden from a person. A person's going through a crisis, so the day that the crisis is going to be dissolved and resolved is hidden from a person. So he should have, you should pray for the Yeshua every single day, and also that's part of the punishment, which gives him a kapara, is being nervous about the crisis. The depth of the judgment. In other words, the depth of the judgment that God is going to judge a person loss of love. Like, we can never know how deep the judgment is going to be. He'll take in all your circumstances and intentions and your mindset. Another thing is, a person doesn't know what's in the heart of another person. Doesn't know what somebody else is thinking about. Nobody knows what is the best way to make a profit. You never know what business is going to take off. You see, a person who's in the lowly mask business all of a sudden found himself wealthy, after Corona. So you never know what's going to take off. Malchus based David, nobody knows when the kingdom of David and Melech will return. That's when Mashiach will come. Malchus chayeves mosei tichla, and when the Malchus of Rome will be totally destroyed. That's Malchus chayeves, the guilty kingdom. So again, you have 7 things that nobody knows. 1, Yom HaMisa, Yom HaNechama, Yom HaKadin. 3, Masha Beliba Shechadreiroi, Mamastaker, Malchus based David mosei taxir, Malchus chayeves mosei tichla. Okay, Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Gimel Devarim Alu B'Machshava Li Barais. 3 things God thought about to create. V'im Loi Alu, but even if they didn't create, God created. Din Hu Sheyalo. It makes sense that these things are needed for existence on the world. In other words, for humans to exist, these three things are a must. One of the things is alamei shiasriach. We need a dead person, the dead body, to be to rot, because Rashi says if the dead body would remain fully intact, people would keep it, and they would constantly never forget the person that died, and that's impossible. No, it would be impossible to go on. And a dead person should be totally forgotten from your emotions. After a year, it should be totally the person who was nifter. You totally it's not forgotten, but it's not as intense as it was. Vala tvua sheterakev, and tvua should rot. In other words, that there's no way for a person who grows produce, wheat, or things that people need, they cannot hold on to it, because if they hold on to it, it would rot. And therefore they must sell it, because if they wouldn't rot, they would store it and they would bring starvation to the world. And I feel that's the same way with the vaccines. The vaccines must, if you don't give them out, they can go bad. So that's a good thing. On coins that also, I'm not sure what Amatbeya Sheyetzi. There's no explanation from Rashi over here, but anybody have an idea?
Yeah, I mean, the art scroll quotes a Maharsha that it's one shot is because it's against the nature of kings to issue royal coins for commercial transaction, but the Nayahu says that the wonder is how people accept gold and silver as transactions, and who signs the value. Certainly today, where we have paper currency that doesn't even have a link to gold, who's ever that people say, oh, $1 is worth $1. Wow.
Yes, that makes sense. The fact that people can agree, despite that we're printing trillions of dollars in stimulus, that it's still worth something.
Right.
It still has value. It's more than a paper. On the side, it says here that if we didn't have coinage system, if there was no such a thing as coins, poor people who don't own real estate will have nothing to have a living on. They wouldn't be able to do business with schayra or transactions, buy and sell, because they have no way to transact. They're not bartering anything because they don't have anything. The only transaction is money. So Jews are happy that there's something called the money business. All right, let's just do the Mishnah and maybe a drop of the Gemara, just so you. If you're in a place that they do malacha on Tisha B'Av, you got to do the malacha. You're allowed to do the malacha. If you're in a place that they don't do malacha on Tisha B'Av, don't do it. If you're a Talmud Chacham, you shouldn't go to work on Tisha B'Av. Every person could make himself like a Talmud Chacham and not go to work on Tisha B'Av, because it's just a special day, and it doesn't look like you're being a Balgaiva if you don't go to work, because he said that's permitted to elevate yourself on Tisha B'Av, not to work. Amar Shmuel said, "Ein tainis tzibur b'Bavel." There's no such a thing of a tainis tzibur in Bavel, el Tisha B'Av b'Vav. What he means to say is that only Tisha B'Av is the only in Bavel was the only fast day that they fasted from the night before, because they normally on the tainis tzibur that you found in Israel was they would make a tainis tzibur for rains, and if they didn't have rains, chas v'shalom, they would make a tainis tzibur in Israel, and they would start the fast the night before. In Bavel, they didn't need fasts for rain because the Bavel had plenty of rain. So therefore, they never had a tainis tzibur that they started the night before, except Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur, but it's not called a tainis. It's from the Torah. So Tisha B'Av. Remember to Sava Shmuel, Tesba, Ben Shmosh Shaloi. Sir, does Shmuel hold that Tisha B'Av starts from the night before? Amar Shmuel said, Tisha B'Av, Ben Shmosh Shaloi, Mutter. That Ben Shmosh Shaloi, it's permitted to eat on Tisha B'Av. You hear that? So how could you, Shmuel, say that Tisha B'Av was the only tainis tzibur in Bavel? that Shmuel mean to say that every Tainus Tzibor, even the ones that are for rain in Israel, the night before it's permitted, by twilight the night before it's permitted, that you're only allowed to eat the day before. The Mishnah says in Tainus, it seems to imply that Bein Hashmoses, during Tainus of a rain, you have to stop eating. So Tainus Tzibor is stopping the night before. And if Shmuel says on the top over here, Tainus Tzibor B'Bavel, it doesn't exist, only Tisha B'Av, that means Tisha B'Av is equal to a Tainus Tzibor B'Bavel. You have to stop eating the night before. Wait a second, Shmuel said that Tisha B'Av, you're allowed to eat the Bein Hashmoses, the twilight before. So the Gemara says, look, it does. The Brisa means, the Mishnah means from nighttime, when it's dark, when it's dark outside, that's when you're not allowed to eat on a Tainus Tzibor, the night before. But the twilight before, even on a Tainus Tzibor, you're allowed to. So the twilight of Erev Tisha B'Av, after sunset, during twilight, you're allowed to eat on Erev Tisha B'Av. So says, and that's how Shmuel his opinion is. Tisha B'Av, Bein Hashmoses Shaloi, Mutter. That's Shmuel's opinion. Obviously, we don't do that. But name a Messiah, let us bring a proof to Shmuel's halacha, because the Brisa says, Ein bein Tisha B'Av Yom Kippurim. There's no difference between Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur. El Zeh Sfeikei Asa, V'zeh Sfeikei Mutter. When it's twilight by Yom Kippur, you're also to eat because it's a suffix d'oraisa. V'zeh Sfeikei Mutter. And this, when it's a suffix, you're permitted to eat. So the Brisa seems to say that Tisha B'Av, during twilight, where it's suffix, it's a doubt if it's day or night, you're allowed to eat. So it's a proof to Shmuel that Bein Hashmoses on Tisha B'Av, you're allowed to eat. So the Gemara says, no, that Brisa is not as proof. My Sveikei Mutter la Bein Hashmoses. It doesn't mean Bein Hashmoses. Loi. To setting the calendar. Listen closely. On Yom Kippur, if you're out in the desert and you don't know when Yom Kippur is, only if you're out in the desert and you think it's either Tuesday or Wednesday, because it's a suffix d'oraisa, you have to fast 2 days. Obviously, if you're in a known yishuv, of course, we only fast 1 day. Not like you do 2-day Yom Tov. But if you're out in the desert and you don't know when Tisha B'Av, when Yom Kippur is, you have to fast 2 days because it's a suffix d'oraisa. But a suffix, if you don't know when Tisha B'Av is, Tuesday or Wednesday, you don't even have to fast any of the days because it's a suffix d'Rabbanan. It's a suffix d'Rabbanan. That's what the Brisa means. Sveikei Asa, Sveikei Mutter means Yom Kippur. If you have a doubt, it's Asa, and this is Sveikei Mutter. If I could hold you for just one more minute, all right, we'll stop over here by Dorash Rava. But what I'm pointing out to you over here is that we're finishing off there by an opinion of Shmuel, who holds that Tisha B'Av, the twilight before, after sunset, one is permitted to eat. That's Shmuel's opinion by Tisha B'Av. But Rava is going to say what we paskin lahalacha, that Bein Hashmoses of Tisha B'Av, and in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, is usher to eat on Erev Tisha B'Av, and that's this Gemara later on, tomorrow. It's a beautiful Gemaras that we learned today. Yeah. All right. Have a good Shabbos, everybody, and a good Shabbos. Good Chodesh. Okay, take care.